You know I'm in labor. Why are you bringing me to the bush? This is bush for crying out loud. Take me to the hospital. I'm in severe pains. I need to go to the hospital.
Stay here and give birth to that cause you call a child. This is what you deserve. You have to give birth to that baby inside the bush or else.
Have you ever loved someone that you ignored every voice, every warning, and even the voice inside you? Have you ever sat in a quiet room and realized you were the only one who didn't see the storm coming? My name is Obegeli, but those who know what I have survived called me Wani Bife, meaning a woman is something. This is not a story to entertain you. This is a story to remind you that when the heart blinds the eye, even the moon can look like the sun. Let me start from the beginning. I was born in Umoke, a small but proud village nestled between red clay hills and thick cashew trees. My father was a carpenter. My mother sewed up by the roadside. We didn't have much, but we had peace. The kind of peace that makes laughter echo from compound to compound. I grew up with my hands in clay and my heart in the clouds. I believed in love. I believed in goodness, and I believed that when you love someone deeply, the gods themselves will protect your home. Then I met Kelechi. He came from Umudiago, a neighboring village known for two things: strong warriors and spiritual women. Kelechi was tall, quiet, and had a gaze like a man hiding 1,000 stories. He was the kind of man mothers prayed for and daughters secretly dreamed about. When he walked into the village stream one early morning, wearing nothing but his white singlet and his silence, I should have walked away. But love is sweet at the beginning, like palm wine that hasn't soured. We started talking, then we started laughing. Before long, we started planning. He came to see my people with his uncle. I remember the day like it was yesterday. His mother, Mama Nena, didn't come. They said she was sick. Even then, something in my chest whispered, "This woman, she doesn't accept you." But love is loud and intuition is quiet, and I didn't listen. The traditional wedding was simple but beautiful. My father danced like a young boy, proud that his daughter was going to the family of titled men. I moved into Kelechi's family compound in Umudiago, where his mother ruled the household like a lioness guarding her pride. That was when things changed. From the first week, Mama Nena made it clear that I was not one of them. She would call me the outsider when she didn't think I could hear. She sprinkled things around my door at night. One morning, I woke up and found snail shells placed carefully under my mat. When I told Kelechi, he shrugged and said, "My mother is just protective. Don't worry, she will come around." I wanted to believe him. Then, after 9 long months of waiting, crying and hoping, I finally missed my period. The joy I felt cannot be explained. It was as though the heavens opened and poured peace onto my soul. I danced that morning. I sang. I cooked her favorite soup, bitter leaf with dry fish, and served it with soft pounded yam. Mama Nena did not eat it. She stared at me for a long time, then asked, "Which spirit told you that this pregnancy is a blessing?" I froze. "Mama, I'm carrying your grandchild." "That's what you think," she sneered and walked out. That night, I dreamt of fire. I saw a child covered in ashes crying inside the forest. The trees were bleeding, the wind was screaming. I woke up sweating, my wrapper clinging to my skin, and I told Kelechi. Again, he said I was just stressed. "You are thinking too much," he said, but I knew something was not right. Strange things started happening. The dog that always played with me began barking at my stomach. A bird entered our room and refused to leave until I collapsed. An old woman in the market touched my belly and said, "Not all fruits are sweet, my daughter." Still I stayed. Still I prayed. At 5 months I fell sick. My legs swelled. My eyes were always heavy. Mama Nena insisted I do a cleansing. She said the baby I was carrying needed to be separated from my village blood. She boiled herbs that smelled like death and asked me to bathe with them at midnight. I refused. For the first time I said no. That was the night Kelechi slapped me for the first time. He didn't even shout. He just looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "You will not reject my mother's protection." I forgave him. I told myself he was under pressure. I told myself men change during pregnancy. I told myself too many lies. At 7 months, I collapsed in the kitchen. Mama Nena refused to call the nurse. She stood over me and said, "If this child lives, it will bring death into this house." It wasn't until the neighbors heard me screaming that help came. By then, the message was clear. I was on my own. I moved into the smaller room beside the kitchen and started sleeping with one eye open. Kelechi became a shadow. He stopped touching me. He stopped praying with me. He started spending nights at the farm. One night, I overheard him and his mother speaking outside the window. She must not give birth here. The land will reject it. Kelechi didn't argue. He only asked, then what do we do when the time comes? She replied, leave her where she cannot stain our bloodline. I covered my mouth and cried silently. That was the moment I knew if I was going to survive, I had to start planning like someone with no husband. But how do you prepare to give birth alone? How do you prepare to give life with no hands to hold you? I began packing small things: wrapper, knife, salt, money, water. I didn't know where I'd go, but I knew staying would kill me. On the first night of my 9th month, the labor started. It was like fire. My body screamed, my eyes watered. I called out for Kelechi. He came in. Finally, I thought just maybe he would hold me. Instead, he threw my bag into the car and said, Mama says we have to go now. Get in. I begged, I screamed, but he drove. Not to the health center, not to the traditional midwife's home, not to any place known. He stopped on a narrow bush path near the foot of Ugwani, the ancestral forest. He opened the door, dropped the mat, water and salt and said, push your course here, not in my father's house. I cried. I held his leg, but he pushed me off and drove away. The night swallowed me. The pain rose like a mountain. I screamed until my voice cracked. The winds didn't answer. The trees just watched. I was alone. The first thing I remember was silence. The kind of silence that does not bring peace but fear. The kind of silence that makes you realize that even the ground does not want to help you. I lay there on that cold mount in the middle of nowhere. The stars above me were plenty, but none of them came close. My wrapper was soaked in sweat and blood. The pains in my waist were no longer sharp. They had become a dull, deep hammering pound from within. My lips were dry. My voice was lost. The labor pains came like waves, slow at first, then hard, fast, and merciless. I was dying. I knew it. This was not how I imagined it. This was not how I dreamt of giving birth. Not in a bush, not in fear, and definitely not like this. My mind wandered as my body fought for life. Was this how my mother gave birth to me? Did she cry like this? Was she alone too? I called for help, though no voice came out. The forest answered me with crickets. The wind blew gently as if they were mocking me, carrying my helpless whispers into the dark night. And then it happened. My body took over. No strength, no hands to hold me. No midwife, no lantern, just pain and fire. I screamed. Something inside me shifted. My body opened like a broken gate. I pushed. Then silence again. Then a sound. A tiny, angry cry. A baby's cry. The tears flowed down my cheeks. I had done it. God, I had done it. But I was too weak to lift the child. My arms felt like a wet cloth. My eyes saw the baby, barely lying beside me on the mat, still connected me by the cord of life. A girl that the world already hated before she even cried her first cry. I didn't know how long I lay there, maybe an hour, maybe 3. I drifted between sleep and death. My body grew colder. But then, footsteps, real heavy footsteps. I thought it was a spirit at first. My heart raced. My eyes tried to focus. Then I saw him, an old hunter, dark, bearded, carrying a rusty gun on his shoulder and a sack full of bush rats. His name was Okonkwo, the night caller, a quiet man known for rarely speaking unless spoken to. He saw me, he saw the child. He dropped the gun, looked around and knelt down beside me. Jesus, who did this to you, my daughter? He whispered. I couldn't speak. He saw the blood, the mats, the baby. Without wasting time, he shouted for help, his voice louder than I ever expected. He lifted the sack, carried me like a wounded goat, and held the baby in one arm. I passed out again. When I woke up, I was lying on a bamboo bed inside a mud house with brown walls. The smell of herbs and charcoal filled the air. I heard the crackle of fire and the humming of an old woman's voice. My eyes turned to the side. There she was, Mami Forma, the village woman who many had forgotten, a widow with no children, no family and too much wisdom. She was known for her stubbornness and her hands that healed. They said she used to be a nurse in the city but returned after her husband died. She came to my side and smiled gently. You woke up, thank God. Her hands were rough but warm as she wiped my face with a wet cloth. I looked at her. I looked at my belly, now empty. Then I asked the only question I could think of. Is she alive? She pointed to the corner. My baby, wrapped in a faded blue wrapper, slept peacefully in a basket beside the fire. My heart broke open and I wept. I stayed there for 2 weeks. 2 full weeks of healing, crying, silence and shame. I told Mama Ifeoma everything, from the day I met Kelechi to the day he left me in the bush. She listened. She didn't judge me. She only said, you are not cursed, my daughter. You were just thrown away by people whose hearts are darker than the forest that tried to swallow you. Her words were bitter, but they brought healing. The villagers started talking. Okonkwo, the night caller, had told everyone. Many were shocked. Some shook their heads. Others whispered things like, that's what happens when you marry a family that consults shrines instead of God. But Kelechi did not come, not once. Mama Nena, she acted like nothing happened. By the 3rd week, I knew I had to decide. I could not go back, but I could not stay hidden. Mami Ifeoma gave me a room in her compound. I told her I would walk, I would clean, I would fetch water, sell firewood, anything. But then she smiled again and said, you will not suffer here. I lost a daughter many years ago. Perhaps God sent you to fill that space. That was the first time I felt like a human being again. I named my baby girl Adora, the daughter of all, because I no longer knew whose child she truly was. She was not mine alone. She was God's proof that life can survive even in the most heartless places. I wrapped her on my back every morning and followed Mama Ifeoma to the market. We sold vegetables, herbs, palm oil. I watched her haggle like a lioness and talk sense into stubborn men who tried to cheat her. She taught me the names of every leaf, how to make oil from scent leaves, how to grind bitter kola for stomach pain, how to prepare cleansing soap, not for charms but to calm the body and clear the skin. Slowly, the healing began, but the scars remained. Every time I saw a pregnant woman in the market, I remembered that night. Every time I saw a young couple laughing, I remembered how mine began, sweet like wine, and ended like poison. I did not hate Kelechi, but I no longer prayed for him either. Instead, I prayed for strength. I prayed for Adora. I prayed for the day I would no longer be called the woman that they left to die. And that day would definitely come. There was a kind of pain that doesn't cry anymore. A kind of pain that doesn't shout. He just wakes up quietly, dresses up, ties wrapper, and continues living. That was the kind of pain I wore like a cloth every morning. Life in Mami Ifeoma's house was peaceful, but the world outside her gate was not. The market women never hid their tongues. Some would stare at me with pity, others with disgust. Some would gather in quiet corners and whisper as I walked by with Adora strapped to my back. That's the woman Kelechi left in the forest though. Even his mother said the child is cursed. So how will the girl grow now? She must have done something wrong. No man just walks away like that for nothing. They gossiped as if my story was a market song. One morning, as I bent over to pick ugu leaves by the stall, I heard one of them hiss behind me. If na me, I go drink poison die. It's better to die than carry shame up and down with baby like handbag. I paused. I didn't turn and I didn't respond because if I did, the tears would return, and I had promised myself I would not cry in public again. There were days I almost gave up, not because I lacked food, but because I lacked dignity. You see, when the world thinks you are finished, they begin to treat you like death, as if you can never rise again. But I remembered my father's words. Even when the world throws you into ashes, rise like pepper. Let them feel you when the wind blows. So I turned the mockery into fuel. Every time someone laughed, I worked harder. Every time someone whispered, I pressed forward. I tied Adora on my back and faced the sun. One afternoon, something changed. A strange woman walked up to our stall in the market. She was dressed in trousers with glasses like someone who lived in the city. She asked for scent leaves, bitter kola and some dried herbs. As Mama Ifeoma packed them, the woman stared at me. Are you Obiageli? She asked. I froze. Yes. Who are you? She smiled. My name is Amaka. I'm a journalist from Enugu. I heard your story. My heart dropped. Please, I don't want trouble, I said quickly. But she held my hand gently. No trouble at all. Your story is powerful. I want to share it with the world. Not to mock you, but to inspire women like you. I looked at Mami Ifeoma and she gave me a small nod. Tell her your story, she said. So I did. 2 weeks later, a feature titled The Woman They Left to Die appeared in a regional newspaper. There was my name, my face, and even a picture of Adora tied on my back with a faded wrapper. I was afraid, but something unexpected happened. Women started coming to the store, not to mock, but to learn. They asked for herbs, for advice, for strength. One woman even said, if you survive that and still wake up smiling, then surely I too can live. My small business grew. With Mami Ifeoma's help, I started making natural soaps, oils, and teas. People who once ignored me started buying in bulk. Some even called me Obiageli the Healer. The chief's wife invited me to speak at a women's gathering. A widow from Oka sent a letter of thanks, saying my story gave her hope. But I did not forget the faces of those who mocked me. I saw how they now smiled with pretended kindness, but I held no hatred. Their mockery was part of the fire that forged me. Years passed. Adora grew like a lily beside a stream, beautiful, calm, and wise beyond her years. She was the kind of child who asked questions like an old woman in a small body. Mama, why don't we visit my father's house? I would smile. Because some homes are too small for big spirits like yours. She never asked again. She loved to read. She could recite proverbs like a chief's daughter. She always greeted with both hands, as if God himself was standing before her. One day, as we sat outside under a mango tree, a letter arrived. It came from a foundation in Lagos. They had read about my herbal products online and wanted to partner with me to package and distribute nationwide. I thought it was a scam. Mami Ifeoma laughed. My daughter, God does not scam, he surprises. We accepted the offer. Within 6 months, I had a registered brand name. Within a year, I had opened a small shop beside the clinic in town. People from different villages came looking for Obiageli's healing hands. From the ashes they left me in, I was rising. But what touched me most was not the business. It was one moment. It was a Sunday evening. I had just closed my shop when a young woman with tired eyes came in carrying a crying child. They said you help people like me, she whispered. I looked into her eyes and I saw myself. I held her hand. Sit down, let me make you something. And in that moment I realized I was no longer the one asking for help. I had become the help. The girl they left in the bush had become the woman many ran to. But fate always has one more page, because the same mouth that spit on you today may come begging tomorrow, and the day of reckoning was coming. They say the wheel of life turns slowly, but it turns eventually, and when it turns, sometimes it brings those who left you to die back to your doorstep. Only now, not with pride, but with pleading eyes and shaky knees. It was a Tuesday. The sun had risen with pride that morning, pouring light into every corner of my new home, a 3-bedroom bungalow with yellow paint and flowers in the front. I was sitting in the compound, peeling garden eggs with Adora beside me. Then I heard a knock, not at the door but at the gate. 3 hard knocks. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wiped my hands on my wrapper, walked slowly and pulled the bolts. When I opened the gate, the world froze. Standing there was Kelechi. Behind him, holding a walking stick and leaning on his shoulder, was Mama Nenna, the same woman who spat curses on my pregnancy, the same man who dropped me in the bush to die. Their faces told a story even before their mouths moved. Kelechi looked thinner. His once proud shoulders were now slouched like banana stems beaten by rain. Mama Nenna's once bright eyes were now dull, and her legs shook beneath her wrapper. I said nothing to them. Kelechi cleared his throat. Obiageli, please, we've come to beg you. I leaned against the gate, arms folded. What do you want? I asked, not softly, but not cruelly either. He looked down, then said words I never imagined I would hear from his mouth. My wife, the one I married after you, she's gone. Left me 3 years ago. She couldn't bear children. All attempts failed, even after we tried medicines, herbs, even traveled to Ibadan for prayers. I nodded slowly, still listening and trying to understand where the story was going to. And Mama? I asked. He looked at her. She was trembling. She's been sick for over a year. We've gone to every healer, every church, but every prophet says the same thing. I raised my eyebrows. What is that? Kelechi swallowed hard. That the only person who can break the curse is the one we wronged. The air became still. Even the birds went silent. I stepped aside. Enter. They sat on the long bench in my veranda. I offered them water and then silence. Adora came out to greet them. She stood tall, 15 years old now, with quiet elegance. Her eyes sparkled like morning dew and she carried herself like royalty. She bent and greeted both of them. Kelechi's eyes widened. He whispered, "She looks like me." I didn't answer. Adora turned to me. "Mama, I'm going inside." I nodded and she entered the house. Then I turned to the two people who once threw me into the lion's mouth and walked away. "You left me in the forest." Kelechi's face dropped. "You listened to a woman who said her own blood was cursed." Mama Nena tried to speak. "Obiageli, please. I thought I was protecting my lineage. I raised a hand to cut her off. "Don't explain." I stood up. I slowly walked towards them. "Let me tell you what happened after you abandoned me." I told them of the pain, of the bush, the blood, the hunter, about Mama Ifoma, of the market mockery, of the healing. I told them of the rising. I told it all, not with anger, but with power. Kelechi wept, real tears, not crocodile tears. "I was young and foolish. I failed you." I looked at him. "Yes, you failed me, but I forgave you a long time ago, not for you but for me." He nodded. "Then help us, please," he whispered. I looked at Mama Nena. "Do you remember what you said when I was 5 months pregnant? You said if the child touched the floor of your house, she would bring death." She nodded slowly, ashamed. "Well, she never touched your floor, yet you still carry sickness, so who is the cursed one now?" Her eyes filled with tears. She bent low. For the first time ever, she knelt down. "Obiageli, please, I'm sorry. You were never cursed. I was the one with the dark heart. I see it now. I see it." I looked at her and suddenly I didn't feel hatred. I felt pity. I told them to sleep in the guest room that night, not because I owed them, but because grace is not weakness. Because sometimes God will prepare a table before your enemies, not to show off, but to feed them what mercy tastes like. The next morning, I gave them breakfast. Then I handed Kelechi an envelope. Inside was some money for transport and a note. "I cannot reverse any curse because I did not place one on you. Whatever is following you is not my voice, it is your own shadow. Go in peace. Do not return. May both of you find healing in your own way. Signed, Obiageli." They left and that was the last I saw of them. Months later, Adora won a national essay competition. She was invited to travel abroad, fully sponsored. She hugged me tightly and said, "Mama, I will make you proud. I will become everything they said you couldn't raise." I cried that day, not tears of pain, but of full circle joy. The villagers who once mocked me now stood in my compound with gifts, calling me Wani Bife. The girl they called cursed had raised a queen, and me, the woman left on a mat to die, had become the gate they now knocked on, for healing, for wisdom and for peace. Because our elders say, the same river they spit in today may be the same one they drink from tomorrow. And me, I did not spit back. I only smiled because I knew I had risen from the ashes and I carried no one's shame but my own crown.